always nice when our management goes all in and it puts pressure on our team, and we like pressure.
Winning's tough, and if you think you have a group that could possibly do it, you go all in.
Yeah, welcome everybody.
Welcome to the Mile High Hockey Lab.
Just kidding. I forgot there was a guy who says that. Welcome
and
everybody.
Action.
Yeah, my bad. Welcome everybody to the Mile High Hockey Lab podcast. I'm guest host Ezra Parter, in for Adrian Hernandez, who is out on the road living life in a wild way. He's producing from somewhere that we don't even know. We honestly don't know. But he's producing this episode in the background. I'm here with our managing editor Evan Liu, and Jackie K. Thank you both for being here, and thank you everybody for watching.
Let's do this. We have a lot of good things to talk about. We have a series win to talk about. We were a little bit worried that we might have to talk about Game 6 tomorrow night, but no concerns at all.
That's right. We're in the clear. We're in round 2. The Avalanche won. Let's start there. Obviously, I think. I mean, we'll get into what went wrong for Winnipeg, but let's start with what went right for Colorado. Evan, I'll throw to you. What do you think were the keys to Colorado completing the gentleman's sweep this series?
Man, I think you have to look at it a couple different ways, and I look at a few things. I think one, Alexander Georgiev's bounce back after Game 1. You'd think if you got average goaltending, you would have swept the Jets, right? That would have been amazing. Yeah. That definitely would have caught the hockey world by storm for sure. But a brilliant bounce back for him. Hellebuck on the other end, meanwhile, let up 5 goals at least in each game. Or I guess the Jets rather gave up 5 goals in each game at the very least. So Georgiev was up to the task ever since Game 1. That is a brilliant first step right towards success and winning. I think the second part too is the Avs depth really kept up well with the Jets, and I think that kind of took me by surprise when you look at the depth that the Jets have and the scoring capabilities that they have. I mean, Vladislav Nemestikov had a career year on the fourth line, right? And meanwhile, you have guys like Yoel Kiviranta doing their best Logan O'Connor impression and doing really, really well on that third line before he got injured. Miles Wood stepping it up a gear. Casey Middlestat, oh my Lord, what a series that guy had. And that just shows the capabilities that this Avs team has. And I didn't even mention names like Nathan McKinnon and Mikko Rantanen. Nichushkin leads the league rather, in goals scored in the playoffs. McKinnon, I believe, had 9 points. Or was that Rantanen? One of the two. Regardless. Some crazy stats up and down the lineup, and they pretty much just blew Hellebuck and the Jets out of the water after Game 1. And that is a really, really great sign of things to come, hopefully down the line for the Avalanche.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think you really nailed it with depth and Georgiev. Those were definitely two of the talking points I was going to bring up. So I love it. Jackie, did you see anything else that made Colorado, such a powerhouse in this series?
Obviously scoring. They pretty much any problem they had was masked by just being able to outscore all of them. So that's what we'll be interested to see is when maybe a series gets a little bit more competitive down the road, what that push and pull is like. But for this, it was just the Avs put on the gas and Winnipeg had no answer for it. For one of the keys in this series for me was the power play, that the Avs had to take advantage of the Jets' bottom 10 penalty kill, and they did. So I think that helped, even though they also did well scoring 5-on-5. I think, but to speak to the depth point Evan brought up, 10 different guys scored a goal in this series, I believe I heard. And I think Lehkonen scored a goal in each game. So that consistency is also really important. So just for me, this series is going to be defined as like just go, like all gas, all scoring. So, I mean, it's hard to get away from that because that was just what it was to me, I think. And also, obviously, Georgiev not melting down. Like, he gave up, an early goal or the first goal, tying goals, but it stopped there, which is exactly what we wanted. So, I mean, he had a nice bounce back, but I'm not quite sure yet if he's going to be able to hold the fort down the whole time. But it was incredible how the Avs turned that series around. How after game one, it was so, they were able to put up the 6, but it was still like, I don't know what's going to happen here. But it just felt like after game 3, it was over. Like 4 and 5 didn't even matter. Just after
Totally
three, it was just like Winnipeg has no answers here.
Yeah, there was nothing they could do to slow Colorado down. I mean, we talked about forward depth. We talked about scoring from all over the lineup. I think it's also important to acknowledge that the defense was incredible from Colorado. Defensively, there were some holes that we definitely saw those in game 1. But the defense, we got 9 points out of Cale Makar. Josh Manson had a point in all but game 2. Sam Girard came back and looked great in one game, and then kind of came back down to earth a little bit, but still was himself. Sean Walker with a couple points and a couple big plays. I mean, it's contributions from all of the lineup. Obviously, Devon Taves steady, and Jack Johnson no points, but he's doing his thing.
He's Jack Johnson. He's the veteran leader on the back end. And speaking actually of veteran leadership, we should talk about Zach Parise. Because Zach Parise, first off, I think there was a little bit of concern when he was playing on the first line, start game 1. I was like,
I'm glad they got away from that.
It didn't work.
I was like, don't love that. But now back in his middle 6 role, particularly on the third line there, he was brilliant. He's been brilliant this entire series. And I've said it countless times, both in person and on social media. We are here in 2024 celebrating Zach Parise scoring for the Avalanche in the playoffs, because 10 years ago, I hated his guts with the Wild, and I think a lot of Avs fans did too. So it's really great to see him still thriving, almost 40 years old, and he is in the lineup every night, producing. I think he scored, 2 goals, right? At least in that series.
He's got 2 goals, yeah.
Yep. And has miraculously stayed healthy, especially after that hit he took in game 5. He seems okay. And is still, to the best of his ability. So again, just another sign of the depth and the quality that the Avs have had, so far in their 5-game postseason run.
Absolutely. I mean, Parise, he scored 1 goal out there with line 2, with Middlestat and Lehkonen, and then he scored 1 goal out there with line 4. And it's hard to know exactly where he's going to slot in as people get healthier, because he definitely was not a play driving asset or a possession asset, even while scoring 2 goals. I mean, he's a wonderful story, but his game has slowed down considerably from when we used to fear him, right? So for me, I love the story, and I love the player, and I love the inspiration that he can bring to a lineup. But the actual play on the ice, 2 goals is amazing. I wouldn't expect it to keep up. I'm curious where we end up seeing him play down the line, because that fourth line with Trennan, Duhaime, and Cogliano has been pretty effective. But as people get back healthy, Parise is going to get pushed down either to the fourth line or potentially out of the lineup, I would think. Jackie, any thoughts on that?
Probably knock on wood, because they'll never be entirely healthy.
Sure, totally.
But
totally.
I mean, yeah, definitely you'd imagine Duran would slot back in on the top line. Would obviously Nichushkin be on the second line. I don't know if they would scratch him. Usually, I think he's probably in the lineup before Kivi Ranta. I would think in the hierarchy.
Yeah.
So
Kivi was good.
I'm quite not sure believing that's gonna continue, but I just feel like how they see it, he just has the respect, the veteran factor, yada yada, and he'll be in the lineup. I'd have trouble seeing them scratch him, but
I agree.
It is something that they should manage. Their older guys, we always wanted them to. Like, does Cogliano absolutely have to play every single game? I don't know. But,
a rotation between him and Parise could make a little sense. Although, like you said, Parise's probably in the lineup over Kiviranta. And I would think Duhaime, too, especially that Duhaime is one player who hasn't necessarily looked like the start of the playoffs energized him or like changed his game for the better. Whereas most of the rest of the forward group, I think you clearly saw them step up as the playoffs have gone on. So I wonder about that too. But we also had another team in this series, the Winnipeg Jets. And I know, a lot of talk has been made about Connor Hellebuyck giving up all these goals and the Winnipeg not having any answer for Colorado. But I wonder what you both think about the Winnipeg Jets, as a team in this series. Was it really just Hellebuyck falling apart? It's hard for me to believe that.
It was not just Hellebuyck falling apart. It was a lot more than that. And you look at team depth and you look at health, of the Jets. I know they had their end of season press conference today. I mean, the Rick Bowness said Adam Lowry was playing injured. You obviously had Brendan Dillon, who was cut with the skate. That was very, very scary. Hopefully he's okay. And probably even more scary was Nemesnikov getting the slap shot right on the face, and he did not appear again in the playoffs. So best of luck to both of their healths. But when you look at the people who were brought in, Cole Perfetti, he's the first name that I can think of that came in. There were a couple of others, and they just didn't really make that much of an impact, and they ultimately were outdone by the Avalanche. And a lot of that came not just 5-on-5, but also taking penalties, falling behind that way. And I mean, Hellebuyck said it himself in the postgame presser or in his postseason presser rather, that he said he was like, he's playing the best of his career, likely the Vezina winner. Right. But he said that he couldn't see like half the shots that went in because the Avs were just doing that good, working down low, getting in front of the net, screening him, and he's unable to find the puck. I think it was just a perfect storm, I guess you could really say, that all kind of came together for Rick Bowness's team. And it's the second year in a row that it's happened now. Won game 1 against Vegas last year and then lost the following 4. So Winnipeg definitely has some soul searching to do. I know that there are questions about Rick Bowness and if he'll still be the coach up there next year. And, really just have to see where you go with this, because that was a very good Winnipeg Jets team, and the Avs made pretty quick work of them, all things considered.
Yeah.
I
Go ahead, Jackie, please.
I was just going to say you bring up a couple good things I want to touch on. One is, after what happened to Dillon, can we not do the stupid send a message at the end of a game scrums? Because here's your sign. Don't do it.
Yeah.
It's pointless. And then somebody got injured. And the Cole Perfetti thing, to me, that was hilarious that he didn't even play till game 5. I mean, it's not like he was just some random prospect or random call-up. Like, he was on your team the whole year. He scored 40 points.
He's been good.
Just because you're, 20, 21 years old,
22,
you were not allowed to play playoff hockey. It's just such an ancient way of thinking. And, maybe he would have made a difference, maybe not. He probably wouldn't have saved the series himself. But I just think the message, I just think teams that do that are setting up their own downfall.
Yeah, absolutely agree. And I mean, Perfetti, you're right. He wouldn't have necessarily turned the tide in the series himself, but it speaks to an overall coaching issue, I would say, with Bowness, where the things that worked in the regular season for this team are not the things he tried to do in the playoffs. And then even within games, like the second period of game 5, they had a lot going for them because he jumbled the lines and tried to get offense going, and he tried to put together combinations that worked in the regular season. And then in the third period, he switched back to his default, and it just blew up. I'm no expert on NHL coaching, but just watching that series, I'm looking at it and I'm seeing a guy who just isn't a modern coach. And it's not just because he's an old man; it's because he's choosing to coach in a way that doesn't work in this league anymore.
No, you're exactly right. And the Avs showed that, right? They showed that by breaking through with their speed. Winnipeg tried to slow down the game as much as they could. Game 5, that was a brutal watch. I'm not going to lie, until that third period came around.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I think that just kind of shows that, right? They have speed, their tenacity. That was really well done to kind of pick Winnipeg apart in the end. So again, questions of what their offseason will be down the line. But luckily the Avs don't have to worry about that. And we've got a really good series coming up against one of two teams that the Avalanche are looking for revenge on.
That's absolutely right. Yeah, go ahead, Jackie.
Before we move on, I just wanted to touch on the goaltending because I do think that's something that should be highlighted, that Winnipeg's going to have the likely Vezina winner. Well, my first question was, how can you have the Vezina winner and have a terrible penalty kill? Like, isn't goaltending at least half the battle there or more? I also found it interesting that he was really weak on screenshots. Some tweet I saw, the second worst in the league. How can you be the Vezina winner and just have such a glaring weakness like that, or something that your team isn't actively trying to overcome? And so I feel like you hear that every series, you get in front of his eyes, make traffic, blah, blah, blah. Like, that's always the strategy. But I found it interesting that the Avs were able to employ that strategy and that it was something that Bonus just had no answer for. I think it goes back to what Evan was saying, that it's like he had one trick in the bag and that was it. There was just nothing that he could do or change, which is a little bit crazy because I do think they legitimately were a good team, a good defensive team, deep, able to score, and it just all fell apart. It is kind of astonishing how quick it fell apart.
Yeah, it really is. It's going to be something that they have to spend the entire offseason, trying to sort through, because it's hard to imagine that Winnipeg Jets team running it back with the same coach and the same lineup. Obviously, there will be some changes because there are every offseason, but without a major change or two, I don't see them getting beyond the real contenders in the West anytime soon. But we're going to get beyond that conversation and move into the next segment of our show here. If you are watching us live on X or YouTube, you can subscribe. That would be wonderful. You can also follow us anywhere you subscribe to podcasts. We are up there: Apple, Spotify. Those are the two main ones. But if you're using another podcast app, we're probably there too. Take a look for MHH_pod on Twitter, Mile High Hockey Podcast, MHH_lab on Twitter, Mile High Hockey Lab on all those podcast platforms. Now, we did mention briefly that there's a new series coming up, and we don't know who it's going to be. Dallas, Vegas. Dallas is up 3-2 after a win at home, the first home win in the series last night. It looked pretty convincing. I'm curious what you both think about the potential matchup with Dallas or Vegas, who you'd rather see, and what you're seeing in that series. Jackie, we'll start with you. Who would you rather see, and why?
That's definitely a loaded question because it's like, careful what you wish for.
They're both great teams.
Yeah. I do go back and forth on this. Ultimately, I probably would rather play Vegas, even though at this point I don't know if I want to wait for Game 7 and probably won't even start this next series till Tuesday. But taking that off the table, Vegas is clearly better than a second wild card, helped by LTIR, of course. So you can't look at it like that. I guess it'd be better for the Avs to have home ice. And I feel like Dallas is a little bit underrated out there on the internet and such. Like they'd be kind of considered as maybe not easy. Easy is the right word, but just kind of like, well, they're not that good. And like people calling them frauds. And I'm like, I don't think so. They're a pretty good team.
Yeah. That's the winner of our division. So
were they 1 point away from the President's Cup?
They were, yeah.
Trophy. So I don't know. I feel like they're not taking it quite as seriously, I think, by the fan base, what I'm trying to get at. Both of them would be a tough out. Both of them, if the Avs are on their game, they can beat anybody. If they limit their defensive mistakes, good goaltending, etc. But so I see pros and cons with it. It'd be kind of nice to slay the Vegas Dragon. Although beating Dallas, we'd be slaying the DeBoer Dragon. So you could have it either way. I don't know. Vegas.
Dragon.
it's just more fun, right? To play Vegas, I think like people hate it, but it's more fun, the atmosphere. And I don't know. I think it'd be a better series against Vegas to be more interesting. Like Dallas can definitely be boring at times, even though like they have some good young players that I think people aren't quite given credit to that I think makes that team really good.
That
Both of their
Wyatt
goal,
Johnston goal. Oh my God.
yeah, he's really good. Yeah, I think if Dallas gets further in the playoffs and gets more television time, I think people will start to realize how good that kid is.
Totally. And I
I think,
really like watching Thomas Harley play too. They've got some good young pieces there.
and Robertson, of course.
Of course, and Heisman. We didn't even mention him. Yeah, absolutely.
And I think goaltending, both of them have had their faults. Like Ottinger hasn't quite just been as sharp the whole year. And then Vegas seems to they're still kind of deciding between Hill and Thompson.
How strange was it that there's so much to talk about here, but I do want a sidebar from the overall conversation to just touch in on that conversation there, because Logan Thompson was so good through 4 games, and then they decided just to make the switch to Aiden Hill, and he was fine, but they lost Game 5. What a strange move. I don't I don't understand it. Logan Thompson literally kept them in a game single-handedly, and then got shelved. It's bizarre. Evan, any thoughts on that?
No, it's interesting. And I mean, when you look at the series as a whole, there's obviously this before Game 4, no home team had won, right? All the road teams had won until Dallas, obviously last night. I wonder if Vegas was just looking for a change. Like, I don't really know. Because the Vegas hasn't been terrible, but I also don't think that they've been the best team in that series. And
I agree.
Maybe Aiden Hill would give them a different look. I mean, he won the Stanley Cup for them last year, right? You're looking for that same sort of magic. I'm not really sure. I have no idea. So that's another thing that makes a potential series against a Vegas would be interesting for the Avalanche. If you pepper them enough, you just might get your number 1 pulled. That's what they did to Hellebuck in Game 4, right? Does it happen if they play to Logan Thompson or Aiden Hill or whoever, right? It's going to be an interesting dynamic for sure. And I do want to touch on the rest part in like Game 7 that Jackie was talking about, because this Avalanche team has done really well when they play consistently, right? When they're playing every other night and kind of getting their groove on, they do very, very well. After winning Game 5 on Tuesday night, they now are going to have almost a full week off, depending how far this Dallas-Vegas series goes. Fans are hoping for a Game 7, right, between those two teams, multiple overtimes, right, just tire each other out. But I don't know how beneficial that would be for the Avalanche, right? It's a double-edged sword that you kind of have to work with, because on the one hand, you want your opponent to be really tired, right, and like battled and wounded, I guess, for lack of a better term. But at the same time, you want your own team to be consistently good, right? Consistently playing on a nightly basis. But you also want them to get healthy, right? Jonathan Drouin might be healthy for the second round. We'll talk about that a little bit later. You still have the very, very off chance that Landeskog could come back at the end of the year. Like, who knows, right? So it's a really, really interesting kind of situation that you have to work with. We might know by tomorrow night, for all we know, if Dallas wins in Vegas.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I don't have the stats on this, but I in recent memory, I believe teams that are coming off of a 4 or 5 game win, playing against a team coming off a 7 game win, lose the majority of those games because the other team is just sharp and they're ready and they're coming in with momentum. That doesn't necessarily mean they lose the series. I know we saw that happen. Colorado a couple years back had Vegas come in and blow the doors off of them in Game 1, and then it wasn't Vegas because they ended up winning the series. Who am I thinking of?
I think there used to be a team coming off a sweep versus a team that won in Game 7. I think they had lost for years.
Yeah.
Finally,
exactly.
that broke the last year or two, but yeah, some crazy statistic where it almost always happens, not just the first game, but the series. And so, yeah, I just think there's so much momentum coming off of that Game 7. that it is dangerous, especially that the Avs would, probably have a whole week off.
And interestingly too, when you look at the Avalanche, I guess you could say, because they won the series on Tuesday, they have not practiced since the game. I guess you could say Landeskog was out at Family Sports Center on his own this morning. And side note, he looked really good. By the way, I wasn't there. I think credit to Brennan Vogt, our good friend who has videos on Twitter/X that he was posting. So you have to wonder, is Jared Bednar just giving his players a couple of days off, like getting them rested? I'd hope that they would practice tomorrow at the very least, right? I feel like 3 days off would be a lot for a hockey team.
I'd be surprised if they don't practice tomorrow.
Yeah.
Yeah, there were definitely some guys who were dinged up and could use some rest for sure. So I can see why, but you would think at least get the rest of the guys on the ice, and if he wants to ramp up practice leading up to the next round, then a couple days off and then a couple days on, could be a good thing. So I would expect we'll see him. But touching on Landeskog real quick, I mean, he definitely. I saw the same videos from Brennan about a week ago where he was doing roughly the same drills at much lower speed. He wasn't working backwards necessarily. And then the videos he showed today, Landeskog was moving. I wouldn't say game speed or anything. He's not ready, but he was moving much faster, and it looked like there was no hesitation to use the knee as normally, which is great.
Yeah, he's testing things a lot harder on his knee than he has, and I think that shows progress, right? And that's what people are looking for, right? Of course, as Ezra mentioned, nowhere near ready to go. Like, should preface that he's not coming in anytime soon. The Avs basically have to make the Stanley Cup final if he has any chance at all in the first place.
I think that's right.
I mean, he's going to need to take contact. If we're talking about like this is going to be a real thing, he's got to start taking contact.
Yeah. Well, he's not even practicing with the team in a no contact situation yet. He's nowhere near ready. But it is nice to see that he's moving much better than he was a week ago. That's the progress is faster than I expected. Although, to be very, very clear and say it one more time, not fast enough to get him back into game action anytime soon. But yeah, speaking about injuries, I mean, we mentioned him briefly a little bit ago. Jonathan Drouin, we got some more information on Jonathan Drouin out there in the world. Apparently the injury was a cut to his thigh that was very deep. Scary, considering we know that a cut to the leg is what took Landeskog out way back when this injury saga for him began. It's a very different cut. We don't have to worry about the same injury, but it is crazy how Colorado keeps having these cuts happen. But Drouin theoretically could be an option later in round 2 or in round 3 if the Avs were to make it that far. I don't really have a specific question about it. I just thought we should talk about Drouin. Jackie, any thoughts?
Yeah, we're just watching the video where he got cut. Apparently, it's just crazy. I mean, you can't even tell something happened. It was like a guy skating in front of him, and just by him, the other guy lifting his skate up. I mean, that's just such a freak thing. But yeah, I don't think this is going to be like a Landeskog concern because apparently Drouin didn't have surgery or anything, didn't cut a tendon. I think that's what happened with Landeskog, even though nobody ever really confirmed it, but nobody ever really asked him what happened because they were out. And then, obviously they don't give any information or talk after their elimination. So we never knew the extent of did Landeskog need to have surgery on the tendon, et cetera, which I think does make it a very different situation.
And if I remember correctly, his was also much closer to the knee, so everything in the knee was impacted, whereas Drouin,
exactly. I think that's where
is upper thigh, and the issue is just that an infection risk from wearing his equipment and sweating in it.
Yes. So it is good to know that the timeline was 4 weeks. We are at about 2 weeks now. So depending on how long the series goes, how it's going, what they need, we'll see. Definitely, it'll be good to see when he gets back on the ice. When he does, then it'll probably be a pretty quick progress from there. Just a matter of getting in game shape and everything, and then everything feels okay. So we will see. Maybe we'll see that in a week or so. But it's good to know because, especially when they ruled him out of the first round so quickly, you wondered like, oh no, is he like done or or
Yeah,
what?
that was scary.
Why? I guess I'm glad that they just were honest instead of like he's day to day and then say that repeated every day.
Yeah, it's so weird to get clarity like that. Or, it's weirder that it's unexpected to get clarity, because it would seem so reasonable to just be like, oh yeah, we know what's wrong with him and we can tell you. But that's not how hockey works.
Yeah, well, bless the French media. They're the ones that spilled the beans.
That's right. Yeah,
they're so thorough. I love them. I really truly do. Like, it's just, maybe it would be intense to hear it all the time if you're a fan of that team where you live up there, but for people down here that get no information, nothing, they're just like a godsend. They're just like, oh my god, these people can report on things. So thank you to, I think it was RDS, I'm not 100% sure, but they gave us that information.
It was RDS, yeah. And I think, you guys kind of touched on it all already, but it's certainly promising that he could return, towards the end of the second round or start of the third round if the Avs make it that far. It's also very interesting that Jared Bednar was the one that was like, oh yeah, that's what it is. And it's possible that he could be back. Like, that's the most, I think, open and honest I've ever seen Jared Bednar talk, let alone during the Stanley Cup playoffs of all times, about one of the health of his players. So I wrote an article about it today for Mile High Hockey about his return, right? But I forgot to mention in it, and I guess we can bring it up here, of like, where do you put him in, right? Do you throw him back up onto that first line? And just because of that Nathan McKinnon chemistry that they had before the end of the season, right? Throw him to the fire there that way. Or does he come back and play a middle six role somewhere along those lines? I don't really know, I guess. I wonder what you all think.
I'd put him on the top line. I mean, it's not like the top line lit up the Winnipeg series, so even though Nichushkin was great. I mean, everyone was individually, had their moments and was good, but it wasn't like the top line was just totally on fire. So
totally agree. Yeah.
And then I think Nichushkin going down to the second line is more viable than like Duran, who hasn't played with those people. And then if we're talking middle six, then he's on like the third line. I don't know. I think that's too much shuffling. I think it's just easier. Put him back on the top line, see how it goes. I think that would just kind of be like the least shuffling everything.
Yeah, I totally agree. I mean, I think if you dig into Nichushkin's stats, his goals mostly came in odd man situations, not even strength with the top line. So, he had a 6-on-5 goal. He had a couple of 5-on-4 goals. And I don't think that his production is going to slow down by moving off that line, because he's still going to get those power play opportunities specifically, which is where he's at his most dangerous. And Drouin, assuming that he's able to go 100% and he doesn't need sheltered minutes for any reason, yeah, throw him back out there on the top line, see if that magic can keep going. I think that's an easy choice.
Yeah, and you'd hope so, right? We'll have to see. Obviously, I mean, as you mentioned, right, he has to get into game shape. He has to get himself ready and hope he doesn't get infected, right? But hopefully that process shouldn't take too long. I would expect him to probably skate, oh gosh, hopefully in like a week, a little over a week.
That's what I like to see, probably by this time next week.
That would probably
be
see
him on the ice.
Yeah, it'd probably be, we don't know the second round schedule yet. I would assume around like game 3, around that time is when he might be skating again. But someone we don't have a lot of clarity on, and I know that I really want to talk about this. I'm sure Jackie really wants to talk about it. Is the kind of surprise debut of Nikolai Kovalenko. I remember I was at the arena for both game 3 and game 4. Thank you, Adrian, by the way, for the invite for game 4. Bless you. I remember getting there and I was like, wait a minute, what? Kovalenko got called up. Wait, he's skating? What? Like, I was like, what? That was very much beyond me. Yeah, thank you, Adrian, because you popped up there for a second. Yeah, I don't know. It was very, very interesting that kind of just happened. So I want to see what people think about him.
Yeah, I mean, I wonder if it was just like, oh, Kiviranta can't go, and we've sent down everybody else. Let's give him a shot, because he played I believe 2 nights before or 3 nights before with the Eagles, and he was great. I think if Jackie, I'm sure you know this offhand, but I believe he had a goal and an assist in that game. Nope, Jackie doesn't know offhand.
Oh
That's
yeah,
okay.
no, yeah, he did have a goal.
Definitely a goal. Okay.
It was. I'm trying to think what exact day that would be. They played Wednesday, Friday, so it must have been Friday.
It was the Friday game, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, he earned an opportunity with his play with the Eagles, and he came up and he looked a little bit lost. I mean, which is to be expected. There was definitely one glaring mistake in one of the games where he accidentally cut off Ross Colton trying to defend somebody and freed up a goal for. I want to say Josh Morrissey, but I might be mistaken.
It
Memories.
was game 5. I think it was Toffoli.
Yeah, Toffoli. That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. But actually, his underlying stats for the whole game were very, very good. I was surprised. He led the forward group in all of the statistical categories that I look at, which shocked me considering he looked visibly lost a lot of the night. But that just goes to show that like his game, when it's working, has a potential to be very impactful because he did have good defensive impacts and he was creating chances. He just also had moments where he was a little bit lost, which is normal for a guy coming up to the NHL in the middle of the playoff run for the first time.
Yeah, they play the same system with the Eagles. I don't buy that. I mean, yes, it's the same organization and they have certain philosophies and tactics, but AHL hockey is nothing like NHL hockey. So you can, in theory, be telling like, "Oh, we're gonna have the same system and the same breakout and the same positioning." They don't, because it's nowhere near the same type of hockey. So that's why I thought it would have been more important to have Kovalenko on the team this whole time, practicing this whole time with the team. I think that would have been a lot more beneficial for the absorption of what they wanted him to do, but they rather had to go this way. So I am glad that they finally decided to just play him. And it was obviously because of the injury. I mean, so at least nice they picked him and not somebody else. You know, they could have picked Olofsson or something. But yeah, I thought it's funny, the first game, he had like 0% expected goals in Corsi. Like 0.
Yes, the second game is where he was great. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's funny. I think you just kind of need to like combine the two because one game individual analytics can be funny like that. That doesn't tell the whole story, but it really wasn't his fault. It's just they were never in the offensive zone. So can't really
the whole Colton Wood Kovalenko combination just was not clicking in either game.
Yeah, and so
particularly the first one.
I'd like to see them continue, but probably the week off will give Kiviranta enough time probably to feel better. So he'll probably have to wait his turn again. And then the Eagles are done. So if anybody isn't aware of that, they lost their play-in series, so some Black Aces were called up. I'm very curious to see who actually practices with the team. Maybe we'll find that out tomorrow. Because I do not expect the whole group of them to. 2 years ago, and when the Avs had their cup run, they only kept like McDonald and Magna like actually on the team, and everyone else was in Loveland just skating on their own. And the only person, I think it was just Malta, was called up for the trip to Tampa, and that was it. So I'm very interested to see, does he stick around? Who do they actually bring up to practice? All that I think is going to be telling. But I am glad it finally happened. It was cool to see him play. He did do some good things. It was nice to see him actually in the offensive zone in the second game he played. So, so far so good, I guess.
Yeah, I think he has done so far what people expected him to do, right? He threw the body around. If I'm not mistaken, I believe he led game 5 with hits on the Avalanche. If I'm not mistaken, that might be wrong though. Someone might have to fact check me, but he was definitely better in game 2 or in game 5 than he was in game 4 when he very first played. I think he only got like 7 minutes in game 4 anyway, which was by far the least amount on the entire team. kind of understandably so. You're kind of getting thrown to the wolves in your first game of the first NHL career game is coming in the playoffs. So, he's done what he's expected to do pretty much. Nothing stellar, nothing Cale Makar-esque that we saw in 2019 with his first career goal and whatnot in that game against Calgary. So yeah, I too, just like you said, Jackie, I'm interested to see who sticks around. I would be shocked if he doesn't stick around. I would think that it would be like him, Wagner, Olofsson. Maybe you throw Jean-Luc Foudy in there, but otherwise, I would be
It's
shocked.
good timing for him.
I know, right?
Yeah, he was up when the Eagles were eliminated, so it's kind of like the inertia helps him.
Yeah, unfortunately, the Eagles did, of course, as you said, end their season. But at least it helps the Avs out a little bit. So thank you for your sacrifice, Eagles country.
Absolutely. I just have one hit on the ESPN stats for the game for Kovalenko. So I'm not sure if ESPN has that right or not. They usually don't. But that's what I pulled up for some reason, even though I know that the stats are usually wrong there. I want to go back to where we were a long time ago before we got into all of the things that we've talked about, basically. Jackie, you said you think you'd rather play Vegas than Dallas. Evan, I'm going to ask that same question of you. Vegas or Dallas? What do you think? Who would you rather match up with?
It's such a tough question. And I mean, I asked it too on Twitter/X, and I couldn't even think of an answer for myself, because on the one hand, home ice advantage against Vegas sounds great. We know how good this team is on home ice. We saw it in game 3 and 4, right, against the Jets. But you look at the Vegas series, and they won 2 games. They won the first 2 games against Dallas. But then on the other side of that, Dallas, the Avs were undefeated against Dallas all year long. Except for that one game in April that shall not be discussed, because I forgot about that game for obvious reasons, if you couldn't tell. So 3-1 against the Stars. 3-1 against the Stars, I should say.
They have
if
bad
I'm not
games against both.
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah, they have not had good games against both Vegas and Dallas. So it's really hard to kind of look at that. And of course, if you play Dallas, you would start on the road in Dallas. If I had to choose between one of the two, I would say Vegas. And I say that for a few reasons. One, home ice advantage. I think that is pretty key. I think the Avalanche would do at least a little bit better on home ice than Dallas has in that series, having all Avs faithful behind them. I also agree with Jackie in the fact that playing against Vegas would be more fun than Dallas is. We see Dallas enough already in the regular season, right? And so playing Vegas and kind of getting kind of slaying that dragon from 2021 again would be fun to do and at least try to attempt, right? And I also think thirdly, though, as well, I honestly think Vegas would be the tougher challenge in competition than Dallas would be. And I know that sounds a little bit backwardsy, considering, of course, they're the second wild card team, and Avs fans might want a lesser team, for lack of a better term. But I think if you want to win the Stanley Cup, you have to show that you're the best, right? You have to beat some of the best out there. And one of the best ways to do that is to go out and to beat the defending Stanley Cup champions, right? And I think that if they did that against Vegas, I think that would be a really good show of what this Avs team is made of and capable of doing without violating the LTIR cap compliance conundrum that Vegas likes to do every single year. And before people come at me, no, Landeskog's situation is not the same as Mark Stone. So get out of our replies. No, I think regardless of whichever team it is, it will be a fun series. It just comes down, of course, to I think a couple of things that we went over in the first series: the depth of the Avalanche and goaltending. And we'll have more of that later in written preview content on milehighhockey.com once we do eventually learn who our opponent is. And of course, if Vegas does become the opponent, they do have to win the next 2 games since they are down 3-2. So they're at home tomorrow night against Dallas for Game 6. I will be watching. I'm sure a lot of other people will be watching, and very intrigued on what is going to happen.
Absolutely. And yeah, you made mention of it. We will have previews coming on milehighhockey.com. We always have previews of every game the Avalanche are playing, a chat thread, a game day thread you can participate in, and our recaps as well. So do check out our work on milehighhockey.com. As you're listening to our podcast, read our stuff at the same time. Try to absorb all of it at once. It's really fun, and it's a good way to consume hockey media. But I think I will agree with you both on choosing Vegas for one simple reason, really, and it's that I think Dallas is going to win in 6 because I think Dallas is better. So I would much rather see Vegas. But both teams are going to be tough matchups for Colorado. But it seems like what Dallas has done is take the Colorado model and apply it to playing against Vegas. Like what Colorado did against Winnipeg is what Dallas started doing against Vegas. Crazy forecheck, pucks to the net with guys in front. I mean, those are basically what hockey is, but they're doing it at such a high level with so much speed that I would say that Dallas is going to take it in 6, and they are the tougher opponent. So I'd rather see Vegas, but I don't think we will.
Yeah,
The
please,
beauty of
if
playoff
Dallas is
hockey.
going to win, do it in 6. If we have to get to Game 7, just have Dallas win. Come on.
Right. Yeah, it's interesting. I was just reviewing I made a bunch of different brackets on the NHL bracket challenge because I couldn't decide on just one. I wanted to have multiple opportunities to be right, and in all of them, I didn't know this until I just checked it, but in all of them, I either picked Dallas in 7 or Vegas in 6. No, so, excuse me, other way around. Dallas in 6 or Vegas in 7. And I think those are the only 2 options now, but I really think it's going to be Dallas in 6.
I definitely picked Dallas. I think I made 2 brackets and they were kept them the same. I definitely picked Dallas, so I think they're the better team.
I believe I picked Dallas in 7 as well, if I'm not mistaken. So I guess Jackie said didn't want to go to 7 games. So Jackie, I guess I'll preface this. Do you at least want like overtime in Game 6 to be the decider? At least get the edge off a little bit for Dallas if they win.
Sure, there haven't been a lot of overtimes. I mean, the Avs obviously didn't have one. I don't think there's been overtime in that series. If there has,
there has.
It was scored very quick. They haven't had
It wasn't though. It wasn't.
It was 2 OTs, with Wyatt Johnston.
It was Wyatt Johnston. He scored with like 3 minutes left in the first first OT. Yeah, it was at like midnight. I watched it.
Yeah,
it was very late, so I understand if you didn't stay up and watch it.
Yeah, I did, but obviously
it depends. I've seen some of all of them, but yeah, it just depends. But okay, so I don't know. With them having the NHL does it where they want like all this series to be over too. Sometimes I wish they would just like move on with it.
I agree.
But waiting till Sunday for that one to end would not be good. So for anybody. So I don't know. I guess sure to get tired out if that's what it takes.
I just want maximum chaos. Just triple overtime. Vegas wins Game 6, and then like quadruple overtime Game 7. Just do it. Please, hockey gods. Please.
No, I hate that. It's like I root at this point, other than what would benefit the Avs, I root for series to be over, for eliminations. Like, not every team out there needs to be seen for 7 games. Not every matchup needs to go to overtime. It just sometimes you need to move on. So when everyone's like, "Oh, please, I hope everything goes to 7, more hockey," I'm like, no. You want the answer. Like at some point, you're just like, you need to move out of purgatory. You just need the answer. You need teams to go away, to have their exit interviews, and to move on. That's what I like. I actually like eliminations when it has nothing to do with the Avs. I'm like, ooh, a team could be eliminated tonight. This is awesome.
Well, we saw we don't have that much time, so we can't get into every series that we've around the league today, I don't think. But we did see LA get eliminated last night, and We saw the Rangers eliminate the Capitals and the Canes eliminate the Islanders in the last couple of days. Anybody you're sad to see go?
LA. Honestly,
LA.
LA. After I just said that, I was a little disappointed to see that they were eliminated. I am so over the Oilers hype, like 110% over it. And I don't mind LA, so I was a little sad about that. I don't know. Do they really have a good chance? As far as the others, no. I think it was great the Islanders are out. Washington never had a chance. It's nice to see the era over in Tampa. So I was glad to see all those in.
Wow, I forgot to even mention them.
Yeah. and I just say I think Florida's really good. I think they're a serious contender to win it all. So, and then as far as the other series, I just hope Boston eliminates Toronto. I don't want to hear about it anymore. I'm over that one too.
Sure. Yeah.
Let's see. The Vancouver Nashville one. That's the only other series. That
what
one's
a weird series.
Yeah, I was gonna say, what an odd series that has been.
Yeah, it is so strange. It really is. I'm not even 100% sure which way I want that one to go. I guess I'd rather see Vancouver win. I think they're the only ones that can match the hype with Edmonton. Like if it's Edmonton versus Nashville, nobody's going to talk about Nashville like whatsoever. So
that would be really big in Canada. I mean, that would be an all Canadian second round. You'd at least have one Canadian team make the Western Conference Final.
And that's fine.
Yeah,
I know
that's fine. Yeah,
that's a lot of hype, but I think Edmonton needs somebody that's going to match their hype. And Vancouver just had such a lucky year. I mean, just the way that they won the last game. Or maybe it wasn't the last. I didn't see the
Sissons one where he hit the post.
Game 4.
But the one where they had the comeback and Besser had the hat trick. Just that comeback was crazy. And
same game, yeah.
Just Vancouver's been like that all year. The luck and the PDO, and now they're on like their third goaltender, and I don't know. You just kind of fascinated to see how far that can go, and I'd at least like to see their sort of luck crash up against Edmonton. And like Nashville's okay, but like who cares?
I was gonna say, out of all of the remaining series though, that is probably the only one, frankly, that has a quote unquote upset that could happen. I mean, of course you have Nashville collapsing, in game 4, but they won game 5. They're going home for game 6 tomorrow night. And I believe it's tomorrow night anyway, but regardless, if they win that, of course, then game 7 is all to play for, right? So it's going to be tough, of course, for Nashville, but Vancouver's also not looked their best in that series. I mean, as we said, what an odd series that has been.
It is.
So if there's anybody that can do odd, it's Nashville, considering how the end of their season went and storming their way into the playoffs. So it could happen, but I don't foresee that really happening.
Yeah, I agree with you. I do feel like the Predators probably match up better with the Oilers than the Canucks do. I think the Oilers are going to blow the doors off the Canucks if they play them. But
I think the Canucks swept that series, though.
In the regular season?
Yeah.
Yeah, but the Jets swept the Avalanche series.
I know, but just even more weirdness.
That's true. But we do have one last segment here on the show, which is our bold predictions. You do have to follow us on Twitter /X to see these get tweeted out, because if you're not on Twitter, then you can't see tweets. So do that, MHH_lab, or follow Mile High Hockey for all of our writing and such. But we had a couple of bold predictions last week. Adrian, I don't remember yours, so if you have the ability to put it in the chat, please do. But we'll start with mine, since I'm the host today. I predicted that Colorado would win games 3 and 4, and I was right. It turns out it wasn't that bold of a prediction.
Ding. There it is.
It felt bold at the time, but no, it's looking like it was an easy choice. Jackie, you said that Alexander Georgiev would start every game of the series, and you were right as well.
Yay!
Ding.
I'm gonna keep it going though. I'm gonna let it ride. I think he's gonna start every game as long as they play in the playoffs.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So that's all the way to the end or not, we'll see. But I mean, of course, unless there's an injury, that that's the obvious caveat there, but
For
I
sure,
think
for sure.
by choice, he will take the net every game.
I think
He'll
that
start with
makes
it.
sense. Are you? Well, we'll come back to our new bold predictions. Oh, there's the ding. Evan, you said that Nathan McKinnon would have 5 points in 2 games, games 3 and 4. Unfortunately, he did not. He only had 4. So that's a
So close.
yeah. There we go. Adrian got
So,
it right.
so close.
I mean, yeah, he played very well. I don't think that that's any indictment on his game. And he rocked in game 5 too. So yeah, if we could have folded in game 5, he would have obviously gotten those 5 points. But yeah, Adrian, I don't remember yours, so we won't go over it. But we do have to make our bold predictions for the following week. Jackie, it sounds like you already have.
It's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off for him.
I call that bold talk.
The fun of remote producing. You never really know when it's going to come, but it happens.
Yeah. Adrian has the advantage when he hosts and produces that he knows when he's going to click it. I'm just like, oh, it's happening. Okay, thanks. Great. But Jackie, I want to ask for an additional bold prediction beyond Yu-Gi-Oh starting every game, since that seems like your season prediction, your playoff.
Yeah,
season.
I'm just letting that one ride. I guess I think Gerard's due for a goal before our next show. Yeah, let's say Gerard's going to score a goal.
Yeah, I mean, I loved his game when he returned, his first game back, and then he was fine the rest of the series. But he hasn't been too dangerous offensively, I don't think. So that does feel bold, but it also feels like very much in the realm of possibility. He's a good player. Obviously, we like him. Evan, how about you? A bold prediction for the week?
Yeah. So my bold prediction last week did not end very well, and my original bold prediction was going to be about this guy last week. And I definitely would have hit it, but I screwed it up. So I'm not taking that chance again. And I'm going to make my bold prediction around Casey Middlestat, because he has had a hell of a playoffs in his very first appearance. He has, I have it on my phone over here. He's played 5 games. He has 6 points, a goal, and 5 assists in that time frame. He's been dominant. I'm going to say that he gets 3 assists in the first 2 games, and at least 2 of those will be to Lehkonen or Nichushkin scoring those goals.
Nice. I love that. Adrian has put his bold prediction in the chat, so I'll just say it aloud. It is Vegas advances to play the Avalanche, and the Avalanche win game 1. That means that would be the Avs bucking that team that plays 7 games versus team that plays a short series trend that we talked about earlier. So that is a bold prediction. I like it. Avs would be at home. I like it. We'll see what happens. I still think Dallas wins, and I think Dallas wins tomorrow, meaning we'll get 2 games in before our next recording, I would think. So my habit so far this playoff season has been to say the Avs win those 2 games as my bold prediction, but that doesn't feel that bold to me. It feels like inevitable to me if it is Dallas. I don't know why, but it really does. So I'm not going to make that my bold prediction. I am going to say that we see I'm going to say that we see a perfect penalty kill game from Colorado in game 1. And I'll take a ding if there's only 1 penalty, because that's not fair.
I was going to say,
an X, you mean?
A buzzer. Yeah, I'll take a buzzer.
There you go.
Well, you think Dallas is going to win, right? And so if you say that the Avs win game 1 and 2, then that would be winning both on the road.
Yeah, but I'm not going to do that.
That's fairly bold.
I know it feels inevitable to me. It feels obvious to me. I'm not going to make it bold.
Okay.
It feels not bold. I think Colorado sweeps Dallas.
Oh wow. Okay.
Ezra's writing the juju. Ezra's writing the juju over there.
I do genuinely feel though that like Dallas is a tougher matchup for Colorado than Vegas, but for whatever reason, I'm like, yeah, but Colorado's going to beat them in like 5 or 6. I think it's not going to be tough. It's going to be tough, but I don't think it's going to be as tough as. That's just But my bold prediction: perfect penalty kill game from Colorado in game 1.
That would be big, because the penalty kill has had issues still kind of throughout this postseason. So that would be good. Please hit that one.
How many did they give up against? It wasn't that many, I don't think, but I
They
know it
didn't
was
take very many
rough in the
penalties.
beginning. It was definitely
Yeah.
rough in game one.
Well, they loved giving up slap shots to Josh Morrissey from the point multiple
Yeah,
times.
yeah, I remember
So,
that
Yeah.
a couple times.
Yeah, it felt like every time the Jets got on the penalty on the power play, they did score, but it just didn't happen very often. I'm trying to pull the stats up real quick, but that's not working. So I want penalty kill percentage was 79.9, which is
yeah.
not terrible, but not good
Yeah.
by any means. Power
And
play
what was the
terrible.
Jets, by the way? If you have it, I'm just curious. I know.
Oh, I can get it. Yeah.
Oh, that one's probably really low.
Yeah, I know. I just curious what it is
Yeah, the Jets penalty kill percentage was 77.1.
against the
I would have
Avs.
thought it would have been way
Oh,
worse.
okay, probably just because they had so many power plays.
Yeah,
Probably.
they took a lot of penalties. And
Which is a
Colorado
little bit
would have-
surprising because you always hear, "Oh, the playoffs they never call penalties," and we know, like, it changes the deeper you go, but usually it also changes in a series, and they were still calling it like crazy.
I really felt like the Jets were earning those penalty calls.
Yeah.
There were a few that people could be upset about, but man, they were not skating with Colorado. So that's what happens.
Nonetheless, that would be very good and would only help with the team effort for whenever they end up playing next. So lots to look forward to, even if there are no games right now for Avs fans, and we'll be here along the way for you.
That's absolutely right. We are wrapping up here. If you have bold predictions, tweet them out with the hashtag I listened to the Colorado Avalanche Mile High Hockey podcast. You have to include all those words. Or any hashtag you can think of and just tag and just hit the at us. We'd love to see your bold predictions. And we will be back next week, hopefully talking about games 1 and 2 against Dallas or Vegas. That's all from us here at Mile High
Thank you for
Hockey.
tuning into the Mile High Hockey Lab.
Sunset, take me